So what if I told you that having, like, a literal genius level IQ actually makes you more likely to fail in business?
I mean, I'd say it sounds completely counterintuitive.
Right.
Yeah, especially in our culture, you know? We just absolutely worship raw brain power.
Oh, totally. Standardized test scores, all of that.
Exactly. But the thing is, the psychological data and, well, the core text we are analyzing today, it backs that up entirely.
It's wild.
It really is. Your attitude and your resilience, they consistently outperform your intellect.
That just completely blows my mind, honestly. But, it also perfectly aligns with this central metaphor of what we're unpacking today.
The architect metaphor.
Yes, exactly. Think about an architect. Like, if you ask an architect what determines the absolute maximum height of a new skyscraper,
Right. They aren't going to talk about the cranes.
no, they're not looking at the cranes or, the grade of the steel beams.
Or the venture capital budget.
Exactly. It will tell you it all comes down to the
It's
blueprint.
the blueprint, yeah.
If that blueprint is drawn for, say, a two-story strip mall,
Which is fine, but
right, fine for a strip mall, but you can have all the best materials in the entire world, all the budget, and you are never getting a high rise.
because the structure physically cannot outgrow its original design.
It becomes the ultimate bottleneck.
It really does. And we tend to think that limits are, imposed on us by the outside world.
Oh, yeah, blame the economy.
Right. The economy or our bosses.
The algorithm is a big one right now.
Oh, always the algorithm. Or, our socioeconomic background. And those things exist, sure.
Right.
But the reality, which is, well, it's terrifying, but also deeply empowering, is that the most rigid limits are the ones we draw ourselves.
In our own psychological blueprints.
Exactly. In our own minds.
And so that brings us to the mission of this deep dive.
Yes.
We are exploring the idea that the primary difference between, like, ordinary results and extraordinary success, it isn't intellect.
Yeah.
It's not luck. And it's not who your parents know.
It's the literal, measurable size of your thoughts.
Yes. And we are pulling this from a pretty extensive stack of chapter analyses, executive summaries, all centered around David J. Schwartz's self-help classic
Right. The magic of thinking big.
from 1959.
Which is just, what stands out immediately about Schwartz's work is its absurd staying power.
Yeah, 1959 is a long time ago.
It's a very long time ago, yet it remains relevant enough today to be, well, famously cited as the absolute favorite read of billionaire venture capitalist Chris Sacca.
Oh, wow. Really? I didn't realize it was his favorite.
Yeah, he talks about it all the time. And it survives because human psychology, and particularly our capacity for self-sabotage,
Oh, we love to self-sabotage.
we do. And that hasn't changed since the 50s.
Yeah.
So our goal today is to extract the absolute best of Schwartz's 13 principles.
And kind of translate them into a practical modern toolkit.
Exactly. Focusing really heavily on self-belief, conquering excuses, taking immediate action, setting goals, and leading with vision.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to stick with that construction metaphor for a second, before we can even begin to build a massive 10x scale skyscraper of a career,
Or just a life, really.
yeah, a career or a life, we have to prep the site.
The construction site.
And for most of us, that construction site is currently covered in a thick layer of toxic waste,
So much toxic waste.
and it has to be cleared out first. Schwartz calls this toxic waste excusitis.
Excusitis? Yeah. The failure disease.
Failure disease. But, before we diagnose the disease, we need to understand the foundation we're actually trying to pour here.
Which is belief.
Right, belief. Now, I gotta say, when I hear the word belief, my cynical brain immediately jumps to, like, wishful thinking.
A lot of people do that.
The whole I believe I'm going to win the lottery mindset, or
Yeah.
I believe the universe will just send me a promotion.
Yeah, just manifest it by sitting there. And that distinction is so crucial here.
Because it's not that, right?
Not at all. Wishful thinking is entirely passive. It is hoping the external world alters itself to accommodate you while you literally sit on the couch.
Right.
Belief, at least in the way Schwartz defines it, is an active, driving cognitive force.
He describes the human brain as a thought factory, doesn't he?
He does, and it's a great image. What you focus on determines the exact type of thoughts your factory produces.
Okay, so if you genuinely believe you can do something,
Your mind stops looking for reasons to quit, and it starts actively seeking out ways to make it happen.
so it's essentially like a biological search engine.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like think about it. If I type in the search query, um, Why am I going to bomb this keynote presentation tomorrow?
Your brain hits enter.
Right. It hits enter and returns a million search results based on that exact premise.
Because you didn't sleep enough.
Because the CEO's intimidated.
Because you stuttered that one time in 2018.
Yes, all the receipts. But if I change the query to say, how do I succeed at this presentation?
The algorithm changes entirely.
It filters out the doubt. It returns solutions, opportunities.
And that is actually a perfect description of the reticular activating system.
The RAS.
Right, the RAS in our brains. It filters the millions of bits of information we process every single second based on what we have programmed it to care about.
So when you lack belief, you're literally programming your RAS to find threats.
You're telling it to look for obstacles. And what's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, this is the worst part.
It is, because when your brain is scanning for failure, you project that doubt physically.
Like in your body language.
Exactly. Others sense your disbelief in your micro-expressions.
Their tone of voice.
Your hesitation. And because they sense your doubt, they subconsciously withhold their support.
Which then, of course, confirms your original thought that the project was doomed.
Exactly. It's a closed loop.
Which drags us right into the toxic waste of excusitis.
Let's get into it.
So Schwartz identifies 4 main variants of this failure disease. We've got health, intelligence, age, and luck.
Let's look at health excusitis first.
Yeah, this is the I don't have the energy or I have this bad back.
I'm just not feeling 100% today.
And Schwartz is pretty ruthless here, isn't he?
Oh, he pulls no punches. He argues that complaining about your health just makes you look self-centered.
Wow.
Yeah, and he says it prevents you from being grateful for the baseline health you actually do have.
I mean, that's harsh, but you see his point.
He points out that almost every highly successful person operates with some kind of physical ailment, or at least exhaustion.
Right. They're not superhuman.
No, they just focus entirely on what they can do with their body rather than weaponizing what they can't do as a shield against trying.
Weaponizing your fatigue, that's a real thing.
It is. But the second variant, intelligence excusitis.
Oh, man.
This is where we see the most insidious self-sabotage.
This is the classic, I'm just not smart enough for this role.
Or they went to a better school, so they should lead the project.
So going back to our opening hook, this is where the genius level IQ actually becomes a liability, isn't it?
It absolutely can be.
So if attitude outperforms intellect, how does that actually play out in the real world? Like day to day?
Well, Schwartz makes a brilliant observation here. He says that the thinking that guides your intelligence is infinitely more important than the raw amount of intelligence you possess.
The thinking that guides the intelligence.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So let's look at the highly intelligent person who lacks belief.
Okay, the pessimistic genius.
Because their brain is so powerful, when they encounter a problem, they use that massive intellect to construct incredibly complex, logically sound arguments for why the project will fail.
Oh, wow. So they outsmart themselves.
They outsmart themselves into total paralysis.
They build a bulletproof case for doing nothing.
Exactly. Meanwhile, you have a person with an average IQ who is deeply optimistic and action-oriented.
And what do?
They just start testing
They
solutions.
just try things.
Yeah. The persistent person will run circles around the pessimistic genius because attitude and persistence are literally forms of applied intelligence.
That is a massive reframe for imposter syndrome, actually.
Yeah, isn't it?
You beat the genius on execution,
Mm-hmm.
not on a standardized test.
Right.
But let's push on that a little bit. Because if I'm sitting at a desk surrounded by people I perceive to be, absolute titans of industry,
The Harvard grads, yeah.
right? How do I actually shift that metric in my own head?
You have to actively audit your own bias.
Okay, how?
Well, we chronically underestimate our own intelligence, right? While simultaneously overestimating the intelligence of others.
Oh, for sure. We compare our blooper reel to their highlight reel.
Exactly. We see their polished final products and compare them to our messy internal drafts.
Yeah.
Overcoming intelligence excusitis requires recognizing that most success isn't born from, spontaneous, brilliant epiphanies.
It's not a light bulb moment.
No, it's born from the mundane, relentless willingness to just keep experimenting.
Right, when the smart people have already talked themselves out of trying.
Yes.
Okay, so let's touch on the last 2 variants. We have age and luck.
Age excusitis is wild.
It really is, because it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like you hear people say they're too young and inexperienced to lead.
And then in the exact same breath, someone else is saying they are too old to start a new career.
You can't win.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
But the math Schwartz uses to dismantle the too old excuse is incredibly grounding.
I love this part.
Yeah, he points out that your productive working life is roughly from age 20 to age 70.
Okay, a 50-year block.
Right. So if you are 30 years old, you haven't even peaked. You still have 80% of your productive years ahead of you.
80%. At 30, you feel like you're supposed to have it all figured out.
I know. And even at 50, you have a 20-year runway.
20 years is an entire career.
It is. The limit is entirely psychological. It is an artificial boundary we draw to protect ourselves.
To protect ourselves from what?
From the vulnerability of being a beginner again.
Oh, that's so true. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to be the new guy at 45.
Exactly. It's easier to say I'm too old than to admit I'm scared to be bad at something new.
Wow. And then there's like excuse-itis.
Blaming the economy.
Blaming the algorithm, blaming the timing.
Right.
I read a great breakdown once that said, successful people don't believe in luck, they believe in cause and effect.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, if a project fails, they don't say the universe was against me.
They study the failure to find the cause.
Exactly. So for the person listening right now, taking a mental inventory is critical.
Which of those four are you using?
Right? Health, intelligence, age, or luck? Which one is your go-to defense mechanism when things get hard?
Because you have to isolate the specific excuse before you can bulldoze it off your construction site.
You can't clear the waste if you don't know what it is.
Exactly. But let's assume you've done that.
Okay.
You've bulldozed the excuses. You are now left with a completely blank slate.
And, honestly, a blank slate is terrifying.
It is.
Because sticking with my old excuses was comfortable. It gave me a reason not to try.
It was a cozy blanket of failure.
Totally. So if I have no excuses left, stepping onto that empty lot means stepping into the unknown.
Which naturally triggers fear.
So how does the book suggest we actually take that first step without just, freezing up from the fear?
Schwartz suggests starting with a tangible calibration exercise, specifically to combat self-deprecation.
Okay, what's the exercise?
He tells you to literally write down your top 5 assets.
Like character assets.
Yeah, maybe it's your work ethic, your empathy, your technical skill, or your ability to synthesize information quickly.
Okay, so I write those down.
Then for each of those assets, you list 3 people who are highly successful but who actually lack that specific strength you possess.
Oh, wow. So it's forcing your brain out of its negativity bias.
Exactly.
Because normally I look at the CEO and I say, look at the one thing he has that I don't.
Right, you focus on the gap.
But this forces my brain to acknowledge the 5 things I have that the CEO might actually struggle with.
Precisely. It builds a logical, undeniable foundation for confidence.
Because you have the proof on paper.
Yeah, but cognitive exercises are really only half the battle.
Okay, what's the other half?
Physical action. Schwartz places a massive emphasis on physical action. His defining rule in this section is action cures fear.
And the reverse.
Indecision, postponement, on the other hand, fertilize fear.
Indecision fertilizes fear. I mean, that is such a visceral image.
It really paints a picture.
If I just sit at my desk ruminating on the scary email I have to send,
The fear literally grows roots in your brain.
the amygdala just goes into absolute overdrive.
Exactly.
But, okay, reading through the chapter analyses for this, Schwartz recommends some physical cues of confidence that I really have to challenge you on.
Okay, bring it on.
Because he says things like, sit in the front row at meetings, make direct eye contact, speak up, smile big, and this is the one, literally walk 25% faster.
You're skeptical of the power walk.
I am highly skeptical. I mean, is walking 25% faster or grabbing the front row seat at a seminar really going to rewire my brain for success?
It sounds a bit much.
It sounds like classic, slightly cheesy 1950s self-help fluff. Put some pep in your step, kid. You'll run the company.
I completely understand the skepticism, and phrased that way, it does sound very dated.
Right.
But the wild part is that modern neuroscience and psychology actually vindicate him completely here.
Wait, really?
Yes, what Schwartz is describing is an early intuitive understanding of embodied cognition.
Embodied cognition.
Yeah. We used to think that the brain gave orders and the body simply followed them. You feel happy, so you smile.
But it goes both ways.
It's a two-way street. The body sends profound physiological signals back to the brain that literally dictate our psychological state.
Oh, are you talking about the facial feedback hypothesis?
Yes.
Like how forcing a smile actually lowers stress?
Yes, that's a prime example. If you slouch in the back row, you avoid eye contact, you shuffle your feet.
My baseline posture, basically.
Right. Well, your vagus nerve and your nervous system register those physical inputs.
Okay.
And your brain interprets that data and concludes, well, we are acting submissive. Therefore, we must be in a threatening environment.
Oh, wow. So my posture is telling my brain I'm in danger.
Exactly. It spikes your cortisol and dials up your anxiety.
So the reverse must be true.
It is. When you force yourself to walk with purpose, to hold eye contact, to take up space in the front row,
You physically disrupt the fear response.
you send an overriding signal to your nervous system that you are safe, you are competent, and you are in control.
That is fascinating.
Courage isn't the absence of fear, it is acting in spite of it. And these physical cues are just biological hacks to make that action easier.
Okay, when you frame it as a biological hack to lower cortisol, walking 25% faster suddenly makes a lot of sense.
It's just a tool to get your brain on board.
And this concept extends to linguistics too, right? Because Schwartz talks about the vital importance of vocabulary.
Oh, heavily. He suggests eliminating phrases like, it's impossible, or it's futile, or we're completely boxed in.
Because they're negative.
Well, yes, but also because the mental images they create. We should replace them with words that create empowering mental images.
Give me an example.
Saying, let's look at this from a fresh angle, instead of, we've hit a dead end.
They basically mean the same thing in a meeting, though.
The outcome is the same, but the brain does not process abstract words well. It processes visual images. If you declare, we have hit a dead end, your brain visualizes a literal brick wall.
Right, and you can't walk through a brick wall.
Exactly. So the problem-solving centers of your prefrontal cortex just shut down because a dead end requires no further calculation.
Well, the journey is over.
Right. But if you say, we need a fresh angle, your brain visualizes a puzzle to be rotated.
Oh, I like that. A puzzle to be rotated.
It triggers curiosity. It engages those problem-solving centers. It is a subtle linguistic shift, but it has profound downstream effects on your team's energy.
Okay, so let's say I do all this.
Right.
I clear my excuses. I start walking faster. I'm managing my physical posture. And I've completely overhauled my vocabulary.
You're doing great.
I'm feeling bulletproof. But then I walk into the Monday morning staff meeting, and my team is complaining they're cynical, they're toxic.
Right.
Doesn't that external environment just immediately crush this new internal mindset I've built?
It absolutely can, which is why managing your environment is the next critical pillar.
Because the mindset is fragile.
Very fragile. Your internal mindset must be protected by the external environment. Schwartz divides people into 3 groups based on how they interact with their environment.
Okay, what are the groups?
Group 1 consists of those who surrender completely to their problems.
The chronic complainers.
Exactly. They convince themselves they are happy being stuck because, well, being stuck requires no effort.
Group 1 is easy to spot, but Group 2 is the fascinating one.
Yes. Group 2 represents those who partially surrender.
Partially surrender.
These are usually highly intelligent, very capable people who achieve a certain level of success. But then they stop.
They just coast.
They crawl through the rest of their lives out of fear of taking a real risk. They play it safe.
And Group 3.
Group 3 are those who never surrender no matter how intense the obstacles become.
Let's dig into Group 2 for a second, because I think a lot of people listening might resonate with that.
It's very common.
Why do smart people, who clearly have the capacity for more, suddenly just park the car and partially surrender?
It's deeply tied to a psychological concept called loss aversion.
Loss aversion.
Right. Once you achieve a moderate level of success, say a decent salary, a respectable title, you suddenly have something to lose.
You got the golden handcuffs.
Exactly. And the pain of potentially losing that status feels twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining a new level of success.
Wow, so they do the math and freeze.
Smart people analyze the risk, they let loss aversion take the wheel, and they convince themselves that good enough is the safest play.
And if you spend all your time with Group 2, that exact rationalization seeps into your own brain.
It does. Prolonged association with Group 2 will literally shrink your thinking.
Because they're constantly telling you to be careful.
Yeah. Their fears, their loss aversion, and their excuses will slowly rewrite your internal blueprint. You will start to adopt their petty habits and their limited horizons.
Man, that is dangerous.
It is. This is why Schwartz is so adamant about the concept he calls going first class.
Okay, now go first class sounds immediately materialistic.
It does sound like that.
Yeah, it sounds like he's telling the reader to buy a Rolex, fly private, and ignore the peasants.
Thankfully, no. It's a metaphor for standards, not a mandate for luxury.
Standards of what?
Going first class means adopting the absolute highest standards for the inputs in your life.
Okay.
It means seeking out the best quality in your relationships, the media you consume, the advice you internalize, and the environments you inhabit.
So it's about curation.
Highly aggressive curation. It requires asking yourself a filtering question. Does this environment support a big thinker, or does it cater to a small one?
You know what this reminds me of? It's exactly what happens with doom scrolling.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Schwartz suggests asking yourself, would an important person read this?
Right.
Think about how that applies today. If you are sitting on your couch for 2 hours, scrolling through a feed of strangers arguing over petty internet drama.
Or your political outrage.
Yeah, political outrage. You are bathing your brain in second-class lower-tier inputs.
You are.
You are voluntarily letting petty individuals dictate your psychological state.
It's the cognitive equivalent of eating processed junk food for every meal and then acting surprised when you can't perform like an Olympic athlete.
That's a great analogy.
Your mental health and your capacity to believe in big goals are shaped by your environment just as much as your physical health is shaped by your diet.
So you have to treat your inputs like nutrition.
Yes. And this is why curating your environment requires what he calls an activated attitude.
The activated attitude. Okay, the chapter notes define this as putting passion into everything you do. Specifically, adopting a service-first mentality.
Service first, yeah.
Like if you are a business owner, you put service first and the money follows. You always give people more than they expect to get.
That's the core of it.
But honestly, doesn't that risk making you a doormat?
How so?
Well, if you are constantly over-delivering and always putting service first, aren't people just going to take advantage of you?
There is a vital difference between being subservient and being service-oriented.
Okay, unpack that.
Being a doormat is acting out of a fear of conflict. You give in because you're scared.
Right.
An activated service-first attitude operates from a position of abundance, not fear.
Abundance.
Yes. When you approach a client or a colleague with the intent to provide massive value, like more than they paid for.
You aren't diminishing yourself.
No. You are creating a gravitational pull. You become an indispensable person that others actively want to see succeed.
Because you're making their lives so much better.
Exactly. No one builds a skyscraper alone. And an activated attitude is how you attract the absolute best builders to your team.
Okay, so if you're listening to this, pause and audit your own first-class standards.
It's a tough audit to do.
It is. Look at the 5 people you text the most. Look at the last 5 deep dives you listened to, or the last 5 videos the algorithm fed you.
Are you letting second-class inputs slip past the gates?
Because if you don't aggressively manage your environment will default to managing you.
And usually not in a direction you want to go.
Right. So let's say you do all this. Once you have that first-class environment secured, you hit the ultimate crucible.
The execution phase.
You have the mindset, you have the network, but eventually you have to execute.
The action habit.
Because I can sit in my first-class environment thinking big thoughts all day, but if I don't build anything, it's just an intellectual exercise.
It's just a hobby at that point.
Right. And the terrifying thing about execution is that it guarantees failure. Like, eventually you are going to stumble.
You will. Ideas alone are entirely useless. Schwartz states bluntly that if you want a project done quickly, you should give it to a busy person.
No, that sounds completely backwards.
I know.
Why give it to the person who literally has no time?
Because busy people have developed the action habit.
They're already moving.
They have momentum. They do not sit around waiting for the stars to align or for market conditions to be 100% perfect.
They just do it.
One of the most piercing insights from the book is that waiting for perfection is usually just a highly sophisticated mask for fear.
A highly sophisticated mask for fear. Ouch.
Yeah, it hits hard.
That hits incredibly close to home. Because we tell ourselves we're just being responsible, right?
I'm just doing more market research.
Getting all my ducks in a row, making sure the logo is perfect.
But really, we're just terrified to launch, because the moment we launch, we can be judged.
Exactly. As long as it's a draft on my computer, it's safe.
It's safe, but it's not real. The cure for this sophisticated procrastination is to stop looking at the massive, overwhelming end goal.
Okay, what do you look at instead?
You work backward, step by step, until you hit the very first micro action you can take right now, today, in the next 10 minutes.
It's like driving in heavy fog.
Oh, that's a brilliant metaphor.
Yeah, if you have a destination that is 50 miles away, but it's pitch black and super foggy, your headlights are only going to show you the next 50 feet of road.
Right.
If you sit in your driveway, refusing to put the car in gear until you can clearly see the entire 50-mile route,
You are never going to leave your house.
you'll just sit there idling forever.
Action generates visibility. When you put the car in drive and roll forward the 50 feet you can see, the next 50 feet reveal themselves.
The fog clears just enough.
Exactly. The momentum creates the clarity you lacked when you were standing still.
But driving in that fog means you might hit a pothole. You might take a wrong turn.
You definitely will.
And this is where Schwartz's concept of bouncing back from defeat comes in. Because big thinkers face opposition just like small thinkers do.
Everyone fails.
The difference lies entirely in how they process the setback.
The book outlines a very specific methodology for turning defeat into victory.
Okay, what's the method?
First, you study the roadblock objectively. You don't ignore it or sweep it under the rug.
You look right at it.
Second, you accept responsibility for your own miscalculations without blaming luck or external forces.
No excusitis.
Exactly. And third, you iterate. You experiment until you find the winning combination.
But wait, there's a paradox here.
What do you mean?
Well, the text demands that you be highly critical of your own mistakes, meaning you have to look in the mirror and admit your strategy was terrible,
Yes.
while simultaneously maintaining a completely positive self-image.
Right.
How do you ruthlessly critique yourself without triggering that intelligence excusitis we talked about earlier? Like, how do I admit I failed without concluding that I am a failure?
That is the million-dollar question. And you do it through a psychological process called cognitive diffusion.
Cognitive diffusion.
You have to separate your strategy from your identity.
Okay.
A small thinker fails and internalizes it. They say, I failed this project, therefore I am an imposter.
Right.
A big thinker fails, externalizes the strategy, and says, my approach to this problem was deeply flawed. The strategy failed, but I am still fully capable of discovering the correct strategy.
Oh, that's huge. You treat the defeat as neutral data.
It's not an indictment of your worth. You become a scientist in the laboratory of your own life.
Right, because when a chemical experiment blows up, a scientist doesn't sit on the floor and cry and say they're a fundamentally bad person.
No. They say, well, that mixture was volatile. They adjust the variables and try again.
I am not my failed strategy. That separation is what keeps you in the game.
It is the only thing that keeps you in the game.
Which brings us to the final major piece of the blueprint. We have the action habit, but action without a destination is just running on a treadmill.
You're just sweating.
Yeah, you're sweating, you're exhausted, but you aren't going anywhere. To truly think big, you need a map.
You need to set stretching goals. Schwartz advises forming a crystal clear image of who you want to be in exactly 10 years.
10 years is a long horizon.
It is, but he insists this must be holistic. It has to encompass your work life, your home life, and your social life.
So not just, I want to be VP of sales.
No, because if you're VP of sales but your home life is a disaster, you haven't succeeded. This holistic vision becomes the anchor that pulls you through the fog and the failures.
And there is a warning in the chapter analyses regarding goals that really stood out to me.
About retirement.
Yes. Schwartz argues that the quickest way to the end of your life is to retire and do nothing.
It's absolutely true, because a goal isn't just a destination on a map. It's the biological fuel that keeps your psychological engine running.
So when you stop striving,
When human beings lose their sense of purpose, when they stop striving, cognitive decline accelerates rapidly. You must maintain an interest in life just to keep living.
that is profound.
So you have this 10-year holistic image, and you are setting these massive stretching goals.
But eventually, your goals become so massive that you physically cannot achieve them alone.
You hit the ceiling of individual contribution.
Right, you have to bring other people along with you. You have to transition from an individual contributor to a leader.
And leadership, according to Schwartz, is fundamentally rooted in how you think about other people.
Not just how you tell them what to do.
Exactly. He establishes some very practical rules. First, leaders do not waste time with endless speculation.
Which goes back to the action habit.
Yes, they gather data, they make a decision, and they move. Because hesitation erodes the team's trust.
Okay, what's rule 2?
Second, they deeply respect others. Third, and this is perhaps the most unconventional, they do not worship other leaders.
Let's explore that. Why is hero worship dangerous? Shouldn't we look up to industry titans?
Looking up to them and studying them is healthy. Worshipping them is toxic.
Why?
The psychological mechanism of hero worship involves externalizing greatness. Okay, when you put a CEO or a mentor on an untouchable pedestal, you implicitly agree that you belong beneath them.
You accept a secondary status.
Exactly. Schwartz argues that if you harbor a second-best attitude, you are invariably going to be a second-best doer.
Wow. So you must respect great leaders, but you must fundamentally believe you have the capacity to surpass them.
That shifts the dynamic entirely, from awe to ambition.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And then he talks about thinking right toward people.
The specifics here are incredibly grounded.
Yeah, like memorize people's names.
Be easy to be around. Don't be the prickly genius who everyone has to tiptoe around.
Don't let your ego dominate the room.
And before getting into an argument, pause and ask, is this really important?
Which it rarely is.
Almost never. This all points back to a tension inherent in leadership. How do you balance the uncompromising ambition of a 10-year massive goal with the empathy required to be supportive of your team?
Because we often picture the visionary leader as, like, a ruthless tyrant who burns people out to hit the quarterly numbers.
Right, the Steve Jobs archetype.
Yeah, exactly.
But Schwartz argues that sustainable, true leadership is rooted in a win-win mentality. He suggests mentally exchanging roles with your team members.
Put yourself in their shoes.
Literally. If you were sitting at their desk, what would actually motivate you? What would make you feel valued?
You do not achieve big goals by treating people as disposable cogs in a machine.
You achieve them by aligning their personal growth with the overarching mission of the project.
So let's bring this down to ground level for our listener real quick.
Okay.
Let's say they are prepping for a cross-departmental meeting tomorrow morning. They aren't the CEO. They might not even be the manager of their team.
They're just a contributor.
Right. How do they immediately apply this leadership thinking when they don't have the authority on paper?
It all comes back to that service-first posture. You lead by bringing actionable solutions to the table instead of just eloquently pointing out all the problems.
Anyone can point out a problem.
Exactly. You maintain an activated, enthusiastic attitude, which naturally alters the emotional temperature of the room.
You listen intently to understand the other department's constraints.
Rather than just waiting for your turn to pitch your own idea, leadership isn't a title bestowed upon you by HR.
It's a posture you assume daily.
Exactly. When you consistently add value and elevate the thinking of the people around you, the formal title inevitably catches up to the reality of the dynamic.
Leadership is a posture you assume. That is a brilliant way to synthesize this whole journey.
It's a powerful framework.
We have covered incredible ground today. We started by diagnosing and destroying the toxic waste of excusitis.
Refusing to let our health, our age, our intelligence, or our luck be used as shields against trying.
We laid the foundation by understanding how belief programs the brain's search engine.
And we talked about acting in spite of fear, leveraging embodied cognition.
The 25% faster walk.
Yes. And expansive vocabulary to literally lower our cortisol and rewire our response to threats.
We upgraded our environment, dodging the loss aversion traps of Group 2.
And choosing to go first class by ruthlessly curating our inputs.
We built the action habit, learning to drive in the fog.
And utilizing cognitive diffusion to critique our failed strategies without destroying our self-worth.
And finally, we mapped the skyline, setting that 10-year stretching goal and leading with empathy, vision, and a service-first posture that rejects hero worship.
It's an incredibly robust, timeless toolkit.
It really is. But as we wrap up, there's one final thought I want to leave you with. Something that builds on Schwartz's work, but places it directly in our current reality.
Okay, let's hear it.
When Schwartz wrote this in 1959, he warned that our immediate physical environment, like the pessimistic neighbor or the cynical guy at the water cooler, tries to pull us down to second-class street.
Yes, his concern was localized negativity.
But today, we carry the entire world's localized negativity in our pockets.
Oh, wow.
Through our smartphones, we are hyper-connected to a global feed of outrage, tragedy, and excusitis. So the question is this. If building a massive life requires a highly curated first-class mental environment, is our modern digital ecosystem actively designed to force us into small thinking?
That's heavy.
Does having access to infinite unfiltered information actually shrink our capacity to dream big? because we are constantly bombarded with millions of highly algorithm-optimized reasons why the world is falling apart.
It is the ultimate modern paradox.
I want you to mull that over during your next deep work session or, the next time you find yourself mindlessly doom scrolling. Are you letting the entire world shrink your blueprint?
That's the question you have to ask.
Because remember, if you accept a blueprint for a 2-story strip mall, you can hustle and grind as hard as you want, but you will never build a skyscraper.
Protect your blueprint.
Think big.